The iPhone 12 event just wrapped up.
Hello, and welcome back to Apple Park.
And you have questions. You're wondering, you're looking for a recap. You want to know what's up. Should you care about this next iPhone?
Today is the beginning of a new era for iPhone.
How big of a difference is it?
Today, we're bringing 5G to iPhone.
And what are the key factors? What are the key developments? A lot of it you already knew, to be quite honest. In fact, so much so that channels like this, we've had the models, we've had the mock-ups, we've had the physical form factor for these devices for a tremendous amount of time. We knew we were going to have these flat edges. We knew it was going to be a trip down memory lane.
It has an all-new design that's simply stunning. It has smooth, flat edges, allowing the aluminum frame and glass to stay flush, front and back, creating this unique, uniform construction.
Kind of a formula similar to the iPhone 5s and that whole generation with the flat edge, or even before that. So we knew that was going to happen, but then we were wondering, well, just how powerful is this thing going to be? Just how fast? What about the cameras? What about the prices? What about the release date? So I think the biggest deal, the biggest thing that took place at this event was around 5G.
And 5G is the most exciting step yet.
Kind of assumed this was going to be the case. They said, look, we're investing in 5G. We're going to be ahead of the curve. In fact, they walked out the guy from Verizon.
I want to thank you and the whole Apple team for a fantastic collaboration leading up to this historic moment.
We're investing in more millimeter wave. We want your iPhone on Verizon so you can have this crazy fast speed. He showed off the ability to see like 7 different streams of HD content downloaded all at once at one of their hotspots at a stadium, an NFL stadium, whenever it is that we get back to NFL stadiums. Although I've never been, I heard it's fun. Now, it's important to note that if you want to take advantage of 5G and you do live in North America, in most cases, you're not going to be able to access that right away. This is a sort of future-proofing.
We're doubling down on our fastest network, the 5G ultra-wideband, with 60 cities by year-end.
The other big piece of information is this small guy right here, the iPhone 12 mini is what it will be called. And they had a kind of cool little unboxing experience in the multiple briefcases. It is what they're calling the smallest 5G phone in the world, not iPhone, smallest 5G phone in the world. And I can tell you it is tiny. It is smaller by comparison. It's smaller than this right here, which is the latest iPhone SE with only a 4.7-inch display. They were capable here of expanding the display with slimmer bezels in order to give you a large screen experience in a small little form factor. As far as sizes are concerned, you then jump up from the mini to the standard 6.1-inch device. This is the one that's going to be available the soonest.
This Friday, October 16th, and available next week on October 23rd.
It's going to be the 6.1-inch model first, and then
iPhone 12 Pro Max and iPhone 12 mini will be available for pre-order starting on Friday, November 6th, and they will begin shipping the following week on November 13th.
You're going to have to wait a little longer, which is kind of an interesting move. Is it just supply chain stuff, or is it strategic? At this point, we don't know. So I've got a bunch of phones on the table here as well. I should probably tell you why that's the case, because Apple is actually going to continue to sell a number of these. These are for comparison, the Pro models, but these are still going to be sold. The regular iPhone 11, the iPhone XR, and then of course the SE, which kicks the whole thing off at $399. So this is sort of what your lineup is going to look like for 2020, making the choice for a customer maybe a little difficult. Now, I've seen reports that this model here, and speculation, that the standard iPhone 12 will be the best seller of the bunch. Ming-Chi Kuo had stated a belief that this could account for 40% of purchases. Maybe it's a combination of the kind of in-between size and the early availability. However, the one that I'm interested in is the big one. That's the biggest phone I believe they've done from a screen perspective. It's going to have a special camera unit with bigger pixels as well. So if you're, a power user, the model you may be interested in is going to be this 12 Pro Max. It's the first time I believe that the Pro Max model is actually more capable than the regular Pro and not just larger. So that's an interesting thing as well. Now, another thing that was brought up in the keynote was this new magnetic functionality, which they're calling MagSafe. They're reviving the MagSafe branding, which they used on the MacBooks once upon a time for the power cords. Apparently, there will be a magnetic structure below the panel of the new devices, which is going to allow you to easily connect to wireless chargers made by Apple, again, for the first time. Of course, you had that product that was in development, that AirPower product, which had issues. They decided to trim it down a little bit and go a little more streamlined, just with a tiny little charger. It's a little puck that fits onto the back, and a variety of accessories that are compatible with it as well, including a wallet and cases that maintain the magnetic aspect, although I do believe that if you have a thin enough case, depending on the material, it will probably still stick through the magnet. I'm waiting, of course, to test this out with the later case, which is, of course, the case that I manufacture for all of these models in front of me here. It's super thin, and the material does not interfere with wireless charging, so presumably that magnet should function through there as well, but I'll test it out once the final product arrives. There's another charger as well. It was a dual charger capable of charging one of these new devices as well as the old ones. This is still Qi compatible, so if you don't have the magnet, you can still use these chargers, but then on the other side, it's also going to have a spot for the Apple Watch, so you can keep your watch charged and your phone charged at the same time. Now, I should talk about pricing as well. I only have 3 versions of the upcoming models, so I am missing the standard iPhone 12, which would fit right here size-wise. This is the Pro model you see with the triple camera setup over there, but it's also 6.1 inches. So the way this is going to break down price-wise, $699 for the iPhone 12 mini. The regular iPhone 12 would be $799. Then you would jump to $999. These, of course, are US prices for the iPhone 12 Pro. And then Pro Max model, the most capable model of the bunch, if you're okay with the scale of it, that's going to start at $1099. So yes, they're premium devices. However, from a performance standpoint, I have no doubt that these are going to be very fast performers, if not the fastest. Apple has been doing some amazing things with their silicon inside of these devices for a while now, and they just continue to sort of push the industry from a performance standpoint. I mean, that's not really up for discussion. They showed off some gaming experiences. They showed off a special League of Legends game, and so you kind of, I mean, in that area, you get what you pay for. You're going to pay a little more for performance like that. So you pair it all together with the 5G, the high-performance chip, and then what they're doing in the camera area as well. They spent actually a surprising amount of time talking about the Dolby HDR capability of the camera for video inside the body with no post-processing. So they're doing some firsts inside of the camera as well. A lot more with the neural engine and the whole computational photography as you would expect. This is something we're going to get to experiment with sometime soon, but we're likely to see an improvement over the previous version on all these models, but in the greatest sense with the Pro Max, which has the bigger sensor. Oh, the other cool thing they mentioned as well was the moving sensor. So the rather than having the image stabilization inside of the lens, it's on the sensor itself, which gives them more capability to improve high frequency and low frequency shakes, hands, things like this. So the other thing that's a bit curious that I saw mentioned was around the glass. Now, of course, these are just models, so these do not feature it, but Apple is claiming to have the strongest glass on a smartphone, which for a long time, that was going to be a product from Corning, Gorilla Glass, and whatever the latest version of that was. But Apple, in their presentation, they spent some serious time talking about this ceramic coating, which was tremendously difficult to engineer, and they say they have a lot more drop protection now because of this coating. Once again, I'm sure this is going to be tested pretty extensively once those devices ship, but it is kind of a cool development. Of course, these are very fragile devices, and anything that these companies can do to make them somewhat more durable is interesting. Okay, so what about my thoughts? Well, this is tough because in many cases, we got exactly what we expected. There were so many leaks leading up to this event. Felt like we knew everything that was going to happen, including the magnets, including the 5G, including the millimeter wave. I kind of thought maybe they would have somebody from Verizon come out, and they did. My takeaway here is 5G. And the reason being, it's not that Apple's the first to get to 5G. Of course, there's plenty of 5G devices out there. I've been using them for a while. Apple has this tremendous footprint. They have this tremendous sales channel, this tremendous fan base. And so often when you see a technology, an emerging technology, and it shows up in other brands, the adoption might not be at scale. Some people get to experience it, again, depending on market, but there's not a huge push from a carrier perspective if the footprint, if the market share is not represented for them. Now, in some markets where Apple doesn't dominate as much, places like South Korea, for example, or China, you have much wider availability to 5G speeds, real 5G, fast 5G. However, in the US, the push hasn't really been there because the demand coincides with the types of devices that people are using, and many were waiting to upgrade their iPhone. Many are deeply seated inside of the iPhone ecosystem and therefore would be prepared to upgrade, would be prepared to demand a faster connection once their phone was capable of it. Now, it's important to note, and I'm just gonna say this one more time, if you do pick up one of these phones today, then this does depend on the geographic region that you're in, but it's highly likely that you will not be taking advantage of fast millimeter wave 5G at the moment. So just think of it as a sort of future-proofing thing unless you hop on Verizon's site and you take a look at the markets in which they're capable of delivering those tremendous speeds. The magnetic thing is a cool development. The design thing is a cool element, them sort of moving backwards in order to go forwards. This is a thing that happens in fashion. For them to go to this reminiscent design, the nostalgia from some people's earlier iPhones, which they may have liked. And then, of course, the last piece, which is the curious one, the mini iPhone. I don't think that Apple would do this on a whim, and I think this product probably exists because of the popularity of this product. When the iPhone SE launched all over again in a completely old piece of hardware, granted with new processing power inside of an old piece of hardware, when people bought this thing, I think Apple, they probably looked at their data and said, oh, there's an audience for a small phone, and why shouldn't it be a new phone? I think this is even something that I may have mentioned in my original video on the SE product. It's a bit unfortunate that there's no flagship level option inside of a small form factor for those that might want it. So I'm glad they're expanding the variety of options, and presumably there's a demand for it. You go ahead and let me know down in the comments because I'm curious what you think. Which of the upcoming iPhone 12 models is most interesting to you? And if you were to buy one, which one would it be? Would you go for the iPhone 12 mini? Would it be the regular iPhone 12, the iPhone 12 Pro, or the iPhone 12 Max? And what would be your reasoning behind that upgrade? Obviously, if you are a real heavy camera user, you're probably going to be looking towards the Pro models because they are capable of doing things that the cheaper ones can't. That said, with the way that the global economy is at the moment, maybe people are too cost sensitive to do that. And in that case, you have a $699 starting price with the mini model, or even a $799 starting price with the regular iPhone 12. So maybe those options end up selling more because of that cost sensitivity. Anyway, we're a short time away from actually physically getting hands-on with the retail units. So definitely subscribe to the channel so you don't miss those unboxing videos. I will have, of course, every single model very shortly. And there you have it. That's a quick recap of what took place today at Apple's event and a quick look at the difference between the old iPhones and the new ones.